what I would like to do now is to address how you might organize your closing argument. There are various choices that you could make, either as a plaintiff's attorney or as a defense attorney. But the central thrust of your organization should be reasons for the verdict. Okay, so depending on your theory and theme, you may have a different approach to organization, but in the end it needs to support your verdict. And topical or organizing by topic, by subject, is really the guiding theme of what we're talking about here. So you need to come up with your theory and your theme, and then use that as the model or as the reason for your organization. I can't emphasize enough that so for example, with our facts here, if we have, let me just scoop these cards up. Remember again that in the case, when we receive facts chronologically, I'm going to shuffle these cards briefly. Let's say that this shuffling is we're going to show these facts chronological. As the facts come out chronologically in a case, they may or may not be strong to the plaintiff or the defendant. So for example, the first fact is favorable to the plaintiff, but it's not too favorable. It's a 5. The next fact chronologically is very favorable to the defense. The next fact is very favorable to the plaintiff. The next fact is very, very favorable to the plaintiff, and so on. So that's what might happen if you simply present facts chronologically. It may weaken your case. You want to organize your closing around topics, around subjects of your own choosing. It may not be chronological. Okay? You might want to, for example, to cluster or to organize your facts around such things as issues in the case. For example, in the firefighter's case, the plaintiff's liability case could focus on, it was a busy morning. It was, I'm going to talk about facts that have to do with how the defendant was in a hurry, how he was going fast, how he was not attentive. You could talk about the issue of the siren. Was the siren on? Did the fire truck have a siren going? You might also talk about the events of the accident. Those are the kinds of things that you can use as rallying points or as centers for your organization, is focusing upon issues. The other thing that you can do in your closing is to organize around the elements. Okay? Remember the elements of the case. The elements are what the prosecutor or the plaintiff has to prove. Let's say there are 4 elements. You could organize your closing around those elements. Particularly if you're a defense attorney and you don't think that the plaintiff is going to prove all of the elements. You could point out weaknesses in the other case by focusing on elements. The other thing you could focus upon in your organization is on jury instructions. Let me pause here to describe how we use jury instructions here in my court and also generally in the state of Utah, which is one of the western United States. And this is typical of a United States court. In our court, we provide written jury instructions to the jury. It's actually in a document that is probably about this big. It's multiple pages. We do most of the instruction. I provide the instructions, and I read the instructions at the beginning of the trial, most of them. And then there are some final instructions that are read prior to closing argument. And in my court, at least, the jury has a copy of those instructions. The attorneys also have them. And so what you can do is you can use the instructions as an organizational center for your closing argument. I have seen that done very, very effectively by prosecutors in my court over the years. Prosecutors will often, in their closing, they will actually get out the instructions, and they will read, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, remember that the judge has instructed you as to this, and they can use that as an organization point for their closing. There are other ways of organizing your closing, okay, depending on the case. One of those ways is to use a chronological organization. As I said a minute ago, it's not always a good idea to organize around chronology, but there may be cases in which it is helpful to organize around chronology or a modified chronology. The difficulty, of course, is that events are unlikely to have occurred in the most persuasive sequence, and for that reason, it's good to get. It's almost like a straitjacket. You know, if you're committed to an insane asylum or a mental hospital, they may put you in a straitjacket, and that chronology can be like a straitjacket, or it can be like chains binding you. And to free yourself from those chains, here's a set of shackles that my bailiff has in his desk. To free yourself, the chronology is a lot like a shackle or a chain, and to free yourself from that, then you abandon the chronology. And I am not very much in favor of using strict chronology. Witness lists. You can also organize around witness lists. You can take a witness by witness. In your closing, you can say, ladies and gentlemen, remember that witness number one, this was his or her testimony, and this witness. That's a good way to organize it.